uncensored and without editorial comment. As we have told you throughout this day, Yugoslavia's army appears willing to be letting the leaders from rival republics settle the political crisis in that divided country. The state presidency is scheduled to meet on Thursday. Representatives of all 6 republics and both provinces are expected to attend. Government television in the Serbian Republic, JRTV Belgrade, provides this report.
Yugoslavs are still struggling to keep country together, but no one could say for sure will they succeed. After resigning, Yugoslav's presidency president, Mr. Borislav Jovic, who is from Serbia, the largest Yugoslav republic, also presidency were left by representatives from Macedonia and Serbian province Vojvodina. Yesterday, Serbian parliament removed Yugoslav presidency member from Kosovo because he was not protecting Serbian interests in Yugoslav presidency. After this decision, work of the Yugoslav presidency has been paralyzed because out of originally 8 members, there are left only 4 from Macedonia, Bosnia, Croatia, and Slovenia. In the meantime, Mr. Vasil Tupurkovsky, member of Yugoslav presidency, said yesterday on press conference that presidency would work as usual, but till yesterday, presidency had not had any contacts with Yugoslav army. On the other hand, Serbian opposition wants to benefit from this unclear situation. Serbian opposition leaders ask for new Serbian elections, resigning of Serbian government, and some of them even ask from Serbian President Mr. Slobodan Milošević to step down. In days ahead, Yugoslav situation could be solved, but no one in the country could say in what way. For CNN World Report, Jakša Šćekić, Belgrade, Yugoslavia.
There are indications that the fighting may soon stop in Angola's 16-year-old civil war. At their recent party congress, right-wing UNITA guerrillas, rebels called for a ceasefire and multi-party elections. Details in this report from South Africa's SABC.
Peace and a return to civilian rule dominated the Congress held at Kwame Nkrumah in southeast Angola. More than 3,000 delegates and an international contingent of journalists attended the proceedings. Several proposals for ending the 16-year war were put forward. These included UNITA stopping its military activities around the capital, Luanda, and eventually transforming itself from a rebel movement to a political party. Messages of support were received from President Bush of the United States and South Africa's President de Klerk. Re-elected leader Jonas Savimbi said UNITA had South Africa to thank for its success.
We have nothing to deplore about our relation with South Africa at that time. We needed somebody to give us support in order to survive. Because if not, the Cubans and the Russians could have wiped us out.
Peace has eluded Angola in the 16 years since it gained independence from Portugal. The MPLA has been in power since 1975, but effectively rules over only the northern half of the country. The civil strife, which has ruined the economy and made war a way of life for most Angolans, has left control of the southern provinces firmly in UNITA hands. The message that has emerged from this Congress is that UNITA is now ready to make a ceasefire work. Anton Enos, SABC Johannesburg, for CNN World Report.
Albanian police are now responsible for food distribution and have been ordered to crack down on black market profiteering. Chronic food shortages are one of the reasons thousands of Albanians have abandoned the communist country in recent days and weeks. For those who stay, there are signs of change. Albania will hold its first free elections later this month. Sweden's SVT1 provides this look at life inside Albania.
The Albanians have taken the sign of victory as a sign of opposition and resistance against the Communist Party. Something unthinkable a few months ago, but people have lost their fear. The Democratic Party, which is the biggest opposition party, was made legal only a few months ago and is now conducting a hectic election campaign for the first free elections. Their resources are small. It is difficult to spread the message of the party over the country. In this room, the candidates from the capital, Tirana, are gathered. They have to make their own advertising with handwritten notes. The first opposition newspaper is now issued twice a week because it is in high demand. The leader of the Democratic Party, Ramesh Pashko, says that the Communist Party is indirectly provoking unrest in order to stay in power. The port city of Durrës is still under military control following the recent exodus of refugees to Italy. Only workers with special permission are allowed into the port area so that no one hijacks a ship or tries to escape by sea. The communist regime is now freeing more and more political prisoners, which is something demanded by the European community Albania now wants to join. International human rights groups have now been allowed into the prisons of Albania and are monitoring the situation, and they were shocked at what they found there.
I have seen Mauthausen and Buchenwald concentration camps, but I have never seen such conditions before.
The communist regime is not denying there is bad treatment in jails and police cells.
We have done a lot about this situation, but more should be done. We realize this. But it also depends on the possibilities of the economic situation.
After 45 years of Stalinistic isolation, Albania is heading for democracy and capitalism. The influence of Italian and Yugoslav television has made people impatient. People want a little piece of prosperity, this in the poorest nation of Europe. Only a few weeks have passed since ownership of cars has been permitted, and only months since private enterprise has been allowed. The only privately owned hairdresser in Albania is jammed with people waiting for a permanent wave, although the methods are not quite up to date and the treatment not entirely without risks. Albania is now on its way to Europe. This report prepared by SVT1 Sweden for CNN World Report.
And that's it for this edition of CNN World Report. Join us again Wednesday when the leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party was named to the post by acting president, who also named 10 ministers and 21 junior ministers, all from Zia's party. Zia's husband led the Bangladesh Nationalist Party from 1979 until he was killed in a military coup in 1981. The new government is expected to be sworn in Wednesday. A new opera based on a real-life event is premiering today in Brussels. It's about terrorism and the Arab-Israeli conflict and the death of an elderly Jewish-American man. CNN's Patricia Kelly reports.
You saw the movie, now there's the opera. It's called The Death of Klinghoffer, and it's based on the 1985 hijacking of the Italian cruise ship Achille Lauro. Written by Alice Goodman and composed by John Adams, the work is directed by the unconventional but internationally renowned Peter Sellers.
When they see these events on television, it's at an emotional distance. And what's interesting in an opera is music is so direct that you're really connected emotionally, and you have none of the usual distance. And so it comes over you like a wave, and you can't quite describe it, but all you know is at the end you're all wet.
4 Palestinian terrorists seized the ship, its crew and 400 passengers off the coast of Egypt. After demanding the release of 50 prisoners held by Israel, they shot and killed the 69-year-old Leon Klinghoffer in his wheelchair and threw him overboard. The same creative group collaborated on the opera Nixon in China. The Death of Klinghoffer, like Nixon in China, deals with events that have actually happened in recent memory. Soloist Stephanie Friedman sings the role of a middle-aged New Jersey Jewish housewife, but like the rest of the cast takes on more than one identity. She also plays one of the 4 terrorists. The principal singers and a full chorus perform on a raised platform representing the cruise ship, while the rest of the action is danced out on the main stage floor.
My dances I've kept as clear and pure as possible and as apolitical as possible. I have no point of view with these dances. They're the ocean and the night.
And what's wonderful is to take something from, what's ugly in the world and to find some moment of beauty and some moment of human understanding.
As the opera reaches the United States in September, when the American audience can make up its own mind about its merits. Patricia Kelly, CNN Brussels.
A message there. And now for a look at the weather, we go to Flip Spiceland. Flip. We're still looking at storms rolling in through our west. You can see one. This is the one that yesterday produced the absolute torrential rains in the Santa Barbara Peninsula. Some of the higher elevations there reportedly had as much as 12 inches of rainfall officially in Santa Barbara. It was a little more than 5 inches since Sunday. It's clearing along the coast now as the storm moves inland, and some of it already beginning to turn to snow. There is some rain in Arizona. There will be widespread snowfall through the Rockies as this moves on to the east. But another storm is on the way, and we're going to see more rain along the west coast tomorrow from Washington and Oregon all the way down into Southern California. The storm that late last week and over the weekend moved across the country and into the northeast, moving away now, but there's still a little bit of snowfall being reported in the northeastern corner of the country. Best weather today in the southeast where it is warm and sunny. Let's take a look at the CNN color radar summary. You can see some of the snow showers here in Maine. This is rain, however. Some rain in West Texas and some rain here in Arizona that I mentioned earlier. So our forecast weather map for tomorrow indicates the new storm rolling into California, bringing in more rain and more snow. The snowfall will exist in the Rockies because of this storm moving in, and the most recent one that'll move out of the Rockies tomorrow and into the Plain States, pick up some moisture from the Gulf, and produce more rainfall in the midwestern portion of the country. Right now, take a look at specific forecasts for cities around the world.
Tragic events of recent weeks in Washington state involving Sudafed 12-hour capsules have saddened us all. In a real sense, we're all victims of these criminal tamperings. You can be assured we're doing our best to resolve this tragic incident. First, because your safety is our primary concern, we've voluntarily withdrawn nationwide all Sudafed 12-hour capsules, which was the only product form involved. Second, we're working with the FBI and the FDA to apprehend those responsible, and we're offering a $100,000 reward for any information leading to a conviction. Third, we've asked all retailers to provide a full refund to any customer returning Sudafed 12-hour capsules. If you have any questions, please call. For over 50 years, Sudafed has been trusted by doctors, pharmacists, and consumers as a safe and reliable medicine. And now, more than ever, we're working hard to maintain that trust.
A lot of you insist on eating wheat thins and oat thins because they taste good. But the whole idea behind these crackers is that you can eat them without feeling guilty. That's why they're baked, not fried. I mean, eat them because they're delicious, and you miss the whole point.
When you smiling, it's hard to smile when your teeth need help. Original Milk-Bone and Tartar Control biscuits help you take care of your dog's teeth. Give your dog something to smile about.
When you smiling. Can your body tell the difference between night and day? How do the seasons affect your moods? Are you a night owl or a day person? Take a look at your body clock and what makes it tick. Rhythm and Blues, this week at 10 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Coming up next on Newsday, the rise in new housing starts in the United States. What does it mean for the nation's economy? An interview with an economist is ahead on Newsday. The Persian Gulf War has been a difficult and trying time for just about everyone throughout the world who has watched it or experienced it. Nowhere more personally has this been felt than in the Mideast itself. And now we have a look at how some Arab poets are expressing themselves in this report from CNN's Pat Neal in Cairo.
The Gulf War may be one for the history books, but in the Arab world, those books are more likely to be poetry.
From the pre-Islamic times, a poet would defend the honor of his tribe. A poet would magnify their exploits. A poet would justify their defeats.
Since the Gulf crisis began, Arab poets, both professionals and amateurs, have been writing odes to war and peace. Audiences gather in homes and halls to hear modern history played out in an ancient form.
Saddam cut the hand that gave him bread.
Poets say the Gulf crisis has all the makings of an epic tale. Evil warlords and rich princes, Muslim fighting Muslim, and families torn apart.
War provides a good occasion for composing poetry in the Arab world.
The beauty and complexity of Arabic makes it difficult to translate poems into other languages, which is perhaps why Arabs are so proud of something that is so exclusively their own.
We feel that we poets are helpless. We can do nothing except to express our deep feelings in poetry.
Farouk Shusha is host of a popular television show on poetry that has been running in Egypt longer than most soap operas, bringing Arabic verse into living rooms for 16 years.
But I've been watching for almost like 3 years now, almost 4 years.
The rich tradition of poetry is also taught in schools from kindergarten through college, although not always for altruistic reasons.
It's a requirement for the university. You have to study Arabic.
Still, Arabic poems are like the lyrics of popular songs. People can recall the words and the evocative images of the first verse they ever heard.
He's saying that somebody is running very, very fast, like a stone coming up from the sky and falling down.
He lost his beloved, and he went back to the place where she was staying, and he was just rememorizing what she used to do.
Love and war aren't the only fodder for poems. Arab poets also write about life's little events.
Even if you have a new bank, say in somewhere in Zagazig, or a poet would write a poem about it.
Scholars say it's too early to tell whether any great poems have been written about the Gulf crisis. But there are those considered classics about the nationalization of the Suez Canal and the 1973 Arab-Israeli War.
And experts say Arabs will continue to chronicle the news of today with the same method used for centuries. Pat Neal, CNN, Cairo.
And that's it for this edition of the International Hour. I'm Frank Sesno in Washington. Thanks for joining us.
Coming up, Newsday, followed by Early Prime, here on CNN.
If you'd like to give a special gift to a boy or girl 8 years old and up, get your pencil ready and write down this number, because I've got just the answer for you. It's National Geographic World Magazine, published especially for kids by the National Geographic Society, the same people who produce world-famous National Geographic magazine. It brings real-life adventure, page after page of fascinating articles and pictures in National Geographic color on animals, outdoor adventure and science, faraway places, sports, and hobbies. And yet, while it entertains, it fulfills curiosity, stimulates imagination, and encourages your youngster to read more. It's amazingly inexpensive. For 12 issues in brilliant geographic color, compare this once-a-month, 12 times a year gift to a single gift from a toy store, and you can see what a bargain this is. There's no shopping, no wrapping, no shipping. You cannot buy it at a newsstand or bookstore. You can get it only through the mail, and it's so easy to order. Just call with that special child's name and address today. Call 1-800-257-1257. Each issue has exciting surprises, puzzles to solve, games to play with friends, stories about kids doing special things, and often supersized pullouts to put on the wall. Youngsters even have the opportunity to compete for a $5,000 scholarship. National Geographic World, what a wonderful gift for any boy or girl. And when you call with your subscription order today, we'll also mail a special personalized gift card from you. So call or write today with your young reader's address and your name for the gift card. Call 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257. 12 colorful issues and a card from you for only $12.95. This gift lasts a year. The benefits last a lifetime.
This is CNN.
The U.S. housing industry shows new signs of life. Is the economy turning around?
The United States Senate sends a message to coalition partners who pledged to pay for the Gulf War, pay up, or face the consequences. Hello, this is Newsday. I'm Lou Waters.
And I'm Cheryl Atkinson. With the U.S. economy struggling to climb out of a recession, some encouraging developments on several economic fronts. Consumer buying power is up, and inflation seems to have slowed down, at least for the moment. But the most striking development comes from the housing industry. After 2 consecutive months in a downturn, the U.S. housing market seems to be rebounding. The Commerce Department says construction on new homes was up 16.4% in February. The government also says 27,000 people found new construction jobs last month. Still, those numbers can't hide the relative weakness of the industry compared to February last year. The number of housing starts was down 32.2%. Analysts point to several factors that may be responsible for the turnaround, among them low interest rates, weak housing prices, and renewed consumer confidence following the Allied successes in the war.
While the housing construction was picking up, inflation was slowing down. The government reports the consumer price index edged up 0.2% in February, the smallest increase in 9 months. Some analysts say the new inflation figures may be misleading. If it hadn't been for substantial drops in the price of gasoline and food, consumer prices would have been much higher. And there's more good news, apparently. The government says average weekly earnings when adjusted for inflation jumped 0.5% in January after dropping the month before. In just a few minutes, we're going to be talking with an economist in New York about some of these promising signs for the U.S. economy. Cheryl?
The U.S. Senate wants to stop selling weapons to countries that have failed to pay their Gulf War bills. Just a few hours ago, the Senate voted 98-1 to provide $15 billion to pay part of the cost of the war. The bill says other countries should provide another $27 billion. The ban on weapon sales was included in the bill because a number of countries have not paid all they had pledged.
I do not recall any hesitation whatsoever on the part of the United States in employing the heart and brains and muscle of our military establishment to the Saudi Arabian Peninsula and its adjacent waters. There was no delay. We moved quickly and decisively, and so it is more than just a little disconcerting to see this kind of delay in stalling by those countries, the defense of which we took up, with no questions asked.
Saudi Arabia and Kuwait both owe more than $10 billion. Japan has not sent in $3.4 billion it promised. The United Arab Emirates and Germany have not delivered a promised $1.9 billion. A group holding 2 U.S. hostages in Lebanon says it will not set them free unless prisoners are released from Israeli jails. The group, the Islamic Jihad for the Liberation of Palestine, says other attempts to solve the issue will be useless. A Polaroid photograph of hostage Jesse Turner was sent to a Beirut newspaper along with that statement. The group is also believed to hold Alan Steen. Iran's president and Syrian officials have met recently with groups connected to the hostage takers, raising hopes there may be a possible release.
In Iraq, the anti-government revolt continues with both the rebel and the government forces claiming victories. In the north, Kurdish rebels say they now control key locations in the oil-rich city of Kirkuk, and they are said to be dislodging pockets of Iraqi troops. But in the south, Saddam's forces appear to be crushing the Shia resistance. The streets of Basra are described as a mass open morgue with an estimated 5,000 bodies strewn about. In Baghdad, tribesmen from around Iraq have been journeying to the presidential palace. Apparently, they're gathering in the capital to show their support for Saddam Hussein. More tales of torture from the Gulf War zone, but this time it's the Kuwaitis being accused of the violence. Palestinians expelled from Kuwait say hundreds of their countrymen have been arrested, tortured, and deported without any evidence they cooperated with Iraqi forces. A group of Palestinian Jordanians recently arrived in Baghdad displaying burn scars, which they say are evidence of torture by the Kuwaitis. They claim it was part of their interrogation after they were accused of collaborating with the Iraqis.
There was an officer, a Kuwaiti officer.
كان كل يوم الصبح يكون معه عصاي اللي ما بيحمل العتاد وبركض فيه
طبعا ورانا بالعصا يضربنا ويبهدلنا ويسب علينا.
He had a big stick. He used to beat us every morning. Usually he ran after us and, you know, punish us with no reason.
طبعا بعد العذاب هذا ما يقارب قعدنا 7 أيام في السجن. طبعا أكل قليل، كهرباء ما في، مي ما في.
After this torture, we spent 7 days in a prison with no food and water.
Amnesty International is calling for an investigation into these growing reports of mistreatment by Kuwaitis.
U.S. troops in Kuwait are destroying almost anything the Iraqis left behind. The U.S. military says if they can't use it, they'll get rid of it. Scouts of the Armored 2nd Division say they've been combing northern Kuwait for almost 20 days. Mostly, they are finding abandoned tanks and a few stacks of anti-ship missiles. Some of the U.S. troops are using the hulks of Iraqi tanks for target practice. The oil wells burning in Kuwait are causing a growing health concern. Environmentalists say the heavy smoke from the fires is filled with cancer-causing agents, and that the oil clouds and leaking crude are seeping deep into the soil and will eventually kill most of Kuwait's trees and plants. You can see a special CNN report on the burning wells, Kuwait on Fire, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
Leukemia is showing up among nuclear plant workers in the United States. Workers once thought to be past the danger point, and researchers say this may indicate ill effects of low-level radiation can take longer to appear than previously believed. So concludes a study of workers at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, where work was done on the atom bomb dropped in World War II. Researchers say the people who worked on that bomb are developing cancer at higher rates than the survivors of the blast in Japan.
Coming up on Newsday, we told you about the good news on the housing market. We'll talk to a real estate expert about what it means for the economy as a whole.
The murder conspiracy trial of Pamela Smart and her teenage lover continues to draw courtroom crowds in New Hampshire. Pamela Smart was back on the stand today. We'll have more on that.
And later on Newsday, one school has welcomed a new mascot with a party that could only be described as hog wild. We'll be back.
Suddenly, there's a new member of that select class of automobiles known as Grand Touring sedans, powered by a turbocharged intercooled engine, richly upholstered in leather and uniquely styled. But what's most distinctive about this Grand Touring sedan is it's also a Volvo. Introducing the Volvo 940 SE. We've changed the car, but not the philosophy.
Remarkably low factory-assisted lease rates on all 91 Volvos end March 31st.
When the whistle blows, the Pistons go to work. Work it! But yo, Philly's not afraid to get dirty either. Get down, guys! Okay, fellas, time to go to work. Wednesday at 8 on TNT. Bigger than life.
This makes me think simple, plain, tan, dull, zip, flakes. Simple, surprise, light, crisp, tasty. Toledo. I grew up in Toledo.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes? I was going to say that.
Taste them again for the first time.
We're about to prove a simple point. On the left, a steak wrapped in saran wrap. On the right, both Reynolds and Glad wraps. Now, knowing a tiger won't eat what a tiger can't smell, which one do you think holds in odor and freshness better? Saran wrap.
What pain reliever do doctors recommend most for minor arthritis pain, backaches, sprains and strains, and menstrual pain? Advil. Gentler to your stomach than aspirin, safe, trusted, doctor recommended. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Tonight, the reality of a pink slip, getting by without a paycheck, trying to find a job when little help is wanted. On CNN's The World Today, 6 Eastern tonight.
After months in the doldrums, the home building industry in the United States, as we've been reporting, is showing signs of life, with more homes being built and the number of applications for building permits also increasing. But what does that mean for the U.S. economy as a whole? Stan Shipley, an economist with Shearson Lehman Brothers, joins us from our New York bureau to examine the pickup in the housing industry and what it signals for the rest of the economy. Is this really good news or just a small uptick? How would you characterize it?
Well, I think you have to recognize that over the last year, year and a half, the housing industry has been in the midst of a deep, almost depression. And so while it's up a good amount going from January to February, nevertheless, it's off a quite low base. We think this is the first sign of recovery, but it's only a very tentative step.
You have any idea the reason for it? The front page of the New York Times suggests it's first-time home buyers who have been shopping around for excellent interest rates.
Well, I think we hear a great deal of anecdotal information from both home builders and realtors that they say there's a great more activity going through the offices there. I think with renewed consumer sentiment and with lower interest rates, people are starting to look for homes again.
Is this a really good sign? Can we expect this to continue? Is this an aberration or what?
Well, I think with already the rate declines we've seen and with more in place, we will see a renewed housing sector in the second half of 1991 and going into 1992. I don't think we're going to get the boom, back to the boom times that we saw in 1985, 86, but we'll be better than we were last year.
We won't get back to the boom times, you think, because the prices will not stay low? They'll start creeping up again?
Well, I think there's a whole variety of reasons. First, we don't have as many demographic reasons why we need to build 1.8 million homes. I think also interest rates will tend to be on the high side relative to historical times.
One of our people talked to you about interest rates. You said you expected them to go down?
Yes,
more?
I still think that we will see further rate declines both on the short-term and long-term end here.
Wouldn't the tendency on the part of the Fed when they see these numbers is to tighten up?
Well, I think the Fed is worried right now about the recession that we're in. Remember, housing turns roughly 6, 7, 8 months before the end of the recession. We're still going to see employment declines for another 4 or 5 months here.
How would you explain the Midwest, for instance, 77% increase in housing starts, the South almost 8%, still in the doldrums of the Northeast and West? How do you interpret all that?
I think you have to look at the regional dynamics of the economy. The Midwest is doing quite well because the manufacturing base, which is largely dollar-driven, is doing quite well. However, the financial sector, both on the East Coast and on the West Coast, are in deep trouble. So right now, in contrast where we were in 1985, where the coasts were strong, this time the Midwest and the South will be doing quite well.
Of course, the housing industry is a leading indicator of how the U.S. economy is doing. We've had a record drop in the stock market, in the Dow Jones Industrial Averages today. We also have a sort of a favorable report on inflation, increasing only 0.2% in the last quarter. Is consumer confidence building temporarily because of the war, or are we finally pulling out of this recession? What will it take to get the housing industry out of this recession?
Well, I think we're going to need lower interest rates yet. I mean, we need to ultimately get an adjust-rate mortgage around 7%, maybe a fixed-rate mortgage around 8%. They're still not there yet, so we need further rate declines, and I think that will ultimately bring the housing industry out.
All right. Stan Shipley, economist from New York with Shearson Lehman Brothers, thanks so much for joining us. Cheryl?
Still to come on Newsday, official transcripts provide shocking words to go with the pictures of Los Angeles police beating a motorist.
And we'll be shedding some light on a therapy designed to treat depression.
The average cost of this luxury car is $37,000. The average cost of the American home is $134,000. The average cost of a private college education is $45,891. Yet the cost to examine this magazine is nothing. Just call this number now, and we'll send you Money Magazine to examine risk-free. If you like it, do nothing, and we'll continue your subscription with articles on better ways to cut your taxes, how to look for a smart investment that delivers exceptional returns. Money will show you ways to improve your lifestyle, get more value from your home. We'll even outline 12 steps to financial security. So in a world where costs are high and so are risks, take advantage of Money's risk-free offer. Call this number now. We'll send you your first issue of Money magazine to examine risk-free. If you find money is not for you, then just write cancel on the bill and send it back. The issue is yours to keep free. Otherwise, we'll continue your subscription with 12 more informative, entertaining issues for a total of 13, payable in 4 monthly installments of just $8.99 each. Your taxes average $4,800. A retirement plan costs $2,400 yearly. Yet these financial guides cost you nothing. Because if you call now, we'll also send your money's financial advisor free. It's a 3-part series that helps you manage your taxes, retire worry-free, invest and win. So why not call now and examine your first issue of Money risk-free? Plus, get the financial advisor free. And while the average American phone bill is $45.33, this phone call will cost you nothing. Call this number now and take advantage of Money's risk-free offer. It has the perfect ring to it.
Defense attorneys have now rested their case in the murder trial of Pamela Smart. The high school teacher was the only defense witness called at her trial in New Hampshire. Prosecutors say she seduced her teenage lover, then persuaded him and 2 friends to kill her husband. Her lover admitted the murder, and the other 2 confessed to helping him. Smart strongly denies she was involved in the killing. She admits lying to police, but says she was ashamed of her affair with the teenager and didn't want it made public.
I have said to this jury that I did keep things from the police. I've not denied that. I have not denied that I was trying to hide an affair. You're absolutely right. I did not want the whole United States of America to know that I had had an affair.
You were willing to risk to be wrongly accused in your version of what's happening. You would risk the murderer go free. You would risk you being wrongly accused. You even said yesterday that you thought Bill Flynn was wrongly arrested because they heard the affair, and you were willing to risk that.
I wasn't willing to risk that. I was scared, and I was trying to make decisions, and I was 22 years old, and I made the wrong decisions.
The trial resumed today under tight security after 2 phoned-in bomb threats this morning. A bomb-sniffing dog was used to check the building. No bombs were found. Closing arguments begin tomorrow.
There are renewed demands for the resignation of Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates. Those demands follow the release yesterday of computer messages from police squad cars the night a black motorist was beaten. The first message was sent to police headquarters from one of the accused officers, Sergeant Stacy Kuhn. Quote, "You just had a big-time use of force, tased and beat the suspect of chip pursuit, big time." That message refers to using a taser stun gun on the victim. LAPD headquarters responded, quote, "Oh, well, I'm sure the lizard didn't deserve it, ha ha." A short time later, a message came in from officers Lawrence Powell and Timothy Wynn's squad car, quote, "Oops." Another car responded, quote, "Oops, what?" About a minute later, quote, "I haven't beaten anyone this bad in a long time." From the other car, "Oh, not again. Why for you do that? I thought you agreed to chill out for a while. What did he do?" From the Powell Wynn car again, quote, "I think he was dusted." That's a reference to drugs. Many broken bones later after the pursuit. 4 officers were indicted last week on felony assault charges in connection with that beating. 11 other officers at the scene may be implicated. Police Chief Gates vows to remain on the job.
A county judge in Florida has struck down as unconstitutional a state law barring homosexuals from adopting children. The judge says the 14-year-old law violates state and federal rights to privacy, equal protection, and due process. The ruling applies only in Monroe County, Florida, but the American Civil Liberties Union says it could be cited in appeals elsewhere. New Hampshire is the only other state with a similar law against homosexuals adopting children. An AIDS group is going to court in an attempt to bring cheaper AIDS drugs into the U.S. They have filed a lawsuit to revoke the patent for AZT. That's the only drug approved by the government to treat the deadly disease. The People with AIDS Health Group of New York says the patent on AZT keeps lower-priced versions of the drug from coming into the U.S. A year's supply of AZT costs about $3,000. The group says generic versions could be sold for about half that.
We have argued all along that Burroughs Wellcome has taken gross advantage of an ill-gotten market monopoly to profit off the backs of people with AIDS. We know that their pricing is structured to maximize profits from a drug that one day, and hopefully it will be one day soon, will be replaced by better drugs. We believe that because of this window of profitability, Burroughs Wellcome will never concede to charging a reasonable price for AZT.
The company has cut the price of the drug twice, but critics say it still costs too much.
Researchers say they may have found a treatment to help children with cerebral palsy gain some control over their bodies. In a preliminary study, researchers used small pumps to continuously inject the drug baclofen into the patient's spines. In 13 of the 17 children tested, uncontrolled muscle spasms in the legs decreased dramatically. The drug, however, has not helped cerebral palsy patients when the drug is taken orally. Research shows that a lack of sunlight during the winter can sink some people into depression. CNN's Andrew Holtz reports on the human body clock and the role of an unusual therapy.
Dawn no longer proclaims the start of the day. Freeway commuters only glance at the burning eastern sky as they dash along to meet schedules fixed by digital clocks. But rising before sunrise can exact a toll on people sensitive to what's called seasonal affective disorder. A lack of sunlight during the winter seems to disrupt the internal biological clocks of perhaps 20% of people in the United States.
And I would be so low, I just didn't know how to get myself out of it. You know, just like I was in the bottom of the pit. It was just very frightening.
During the winter in Seattle, Margaret Zittel is treated with doses of what she is lacking, bright light. Each morning, she spends an hour or two in front of a box of fluorescent bulbs, like the one Dr. Carla Hellickson uses to instruct her patients.
We should be getting about 10,000 lux of light, and that's about as much light as we would expect you would be getting outside on a cloudy day. So we're really not giving you too much light.
Nevertheless, it takes light many times the intensity of normal room light to burn away seasonal depression by altering body rhythms. Animal and human studies indicate that the key is deep within the brain, a tiny cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nuclei. Very bright light entering the eyes triggers nerve signals to these body clock cells. And that seems to tell the brain when the sun is up, in essence, what time it is. Doctors warn there are other causes of depression which need treatments other than light therapy. They stress each patient must be diagnosed individually. Nevertheless, for the right patient, the effects of light therapy can seem amazing.
Their biologic signs of sleep and appetite tend to begin improving in about 5 to 7 days, and their mood follows a few days later. And they have a sense of well-being and a sense of hope again.
It starts to then permeate your entire lifestyle, you know, how you deal with people at work, how you deal with your spouse, how you deal with the mundane things in life. And so the overall quality of your life is a big improvement.
Researchers are showing that by resetting the body clock, light therapy can ease other rhythm disorders, including jet lag and night shift fatigue. In our next report, we'll see light therapy for night owls. And watch for our half-hour special Rhythm and Blues.
This billion-dollar financier tells us his version of where America should go after the war. Tonight on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Your attention, please. The 6:30.
Sacrifice. In Atlanta, the so-called kissing professor has some Emory University law students seeing red. The law school professor is accused of kissing a large number of female students without their permission. Today, some law students boycotted classes, protesting the school decision not to discipline the professor. An investigating committee found the professor's behavior inappropriate, but says it did not violate the school's sexual harassment policy.
U.S. patent number 5 million was issued today to the University of Florida. The patent is for a process school researchers developed to turn organic waste into a gasoline substitute. Commerce Secretary Robert Mosbacher calls today's 5 millionth patent another milestone in creativity, as he put it. And he says it comes at a time when technological innovation is critical to international competitiveness. In past milestones, patent number 4 million was issued in 1976 for a recycling system, and patent number 1 million was issued in 1911. That was for an automobile tire. Many inventive folks are discovering ways to use the Gulf War to make money. Lieutenant General Thomas Kelly, who you may remember from his daily Pentagon briefings, is going to head out on a lecture circuit. Atlanta writer Gene Sasson is on the New York Times bestseller list with her first book, The Rape of Kuwait. These are but two of hundreds of folks, journalists, former Middle East diplomats, historians, and others, said to be coming out of the woodwork to cash in on Operation Desert Storm.
White House Press Secretary Marlin Fitzwater also gained during the war. Gained weight, that is. President Bush's spokesman put on an extra 35 pounds during the Gulf conflict. He tipped the scales at 228 and decided it was time to start a diet. One of those with a chocolate shake for breakfast and lunch, then a sensible dinner. Fitzwater says diet, not exercise, is the only way for him to return to his media-fighting weight. He says he's lost weight successfully before. This time he's shooting for a trim 200.
His media-fighting weight, is it? Still to come, Wall Street takes a big hit today. We'll have the latest from the New York Stock Exchange in a moment.
And you may have noticed less junk mail in your mailbox recently. We'll find out why when we return.
Newsday continues, followed by Early Prime, next on CNN.
A TNT exclusive premiere miniseries. They were ahead of their time, on top of the world, and at each other's throats. Michelangelo, Raphael, and Da Vinci. They rivaled each other and rocked the world. A Season of Giants. Sunday at 2 Eastern on TNT.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's March Academy Awards month. Of course.
News from New York. Jan?
Thanks, Cheryl. Here on Wall Street, a sharp retreat for stocks today. Latest report on inflation and a rebound in housing dashed hopes for lower interest rates. That sent stock and bond prices plunging. IBM also depressed the market with bad earnings news. By the close, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 62 points to close at 2867.82. Volume was active, 177 million shares. That's the unofficial volume. Changing hands, declining half of what Wall Street estimates. IBM off 12 5/8. Other technology stocks followed. Digital down 5 1/4 in February, but a sharp drop in energy prices helping slow the pace. The consumer price index rising 0.2% after a 0.4% gain in the previous month. The surprise in today's report was a steep jump in the core rate of inflation. Excluding food and energy, consumer inflation rose a sharp 0.7%. That's more than twice what analysts predicted. Signs of life in the housing sector. Construction of new homes and apartments shooting up 16.4% last month. That's 3 times more than analysts expected, the biggest gain in more than a year. Better news for the industry down the road as well. Building permits, a gauge of future construction activity.
In the near term, this inflation report combined with the housing report that also came out that showed a pickup in housing starts in February is going to delay any Fed easing. At the soonest, it's going to be another month before the Fed can ease.
That view helping wait. I'm Jan Hopkins reporting.
It has voted to ban arms sales to countries that have failed to ante up on the Gulf War. The ban is part of an appropriations bill earmarking more than $42 billion to pay for the war. Senator Robert Byrd says Allied countries pledged more than $54 billion to cover U.S. war costs, but have delivered less than half that. Transcripts of police computer messages have led to more calls for the resignation of L.A. Police Chief Daryl Gates. Those messages contain conversations between police officers following the brutal beating in L.A. and show that officers joked about the injuries they inflicted and called the suspect a lizard. A videotape of the beating provoked outrage in Los Angeles and also around the country. Polish President-elect Wałęsa has just arrived in the United States for his first visit as President of Poland. His last trip to the United States as Solidarity Chairman focused on politics, but this time the focus is to be on economics and getting a financial boost from U.S. business.
Even the companies that send junk mail apparently think that some of it is not worth the stamp it's mailed with since the recent hike in postal rates. CNN's Steve Young reports from New York.
The 25% boost in the cost of third-class mail blew through junk mailers like a chill wind. The $24 billion a year direct marketing industry, as it prefers to be called, had to make tough decisions.
should we mail into the teeth of this war and recession early to beat the postal increase, or should we wait? And so that was a big exercise. It turns out we decided in many cases not to mail.
The cost of saturation campaigns is up $1.5 million to $10 million for a major mailing. As a result, mailboxes are now less stuffed with junk mail. And direct market agencies are using new strategies. For instance, 800 telephone numbers advertised on TV so consumers can ask to receive the mailings. That way, the size of the mailings can be reduced. What agencies lose in mailing commissions, they may gain in placing the television advertising. For years, the Postal Service has faced stiff competition in business mail. Now it's facing competition for consumer mail, too.
Those pieces of mail that can go outside the U.S. Postal Service monopoly, such as saturation mail and catalogs. Magazines can also go outside of the mail stream. Being mailed directly to the consumer by a private carrier. That's one thing that is being explored.
Alternate delivery is being used or considered by magazine publishers, including Time Magazine, and direct marketers, including AT&T. 98 million people, half the adult population of the United States, shopped in response to catalog mail last year, direct marketers say. It will keep coming, but marketers hope to target with rifle precision. Shotgun mail is becoming too expensive. Steve Young, CNN Business News, New York.
It's a question many children perhaps have asked themselves. Do you make more money when you get a regular allowance or when you depend on infrequent handouts from your parents? The answer? It doesn't matter. A nationwide poll of 700 kids shows children make the same amount of money whether they get an allowance or not. From $5 a week for 9 and 10-year-olds to $15 a week for 13 and 14-year-olds. Still, most kids in the survey say they'd rather earn an allowance. It makes them feel independent.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Still ahead, we'll introduce you to a colorful gentleman who can tell you why Bordeaux Rose is in and Broadway Baby is out.
And in sports, Jim Huber tells us how Bo reacted to getting fired.
And we're painting all kinds of wet colors across our weather map today. Rain once again ready.